What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into Neil Young's studio catalog. Today, I'm sad because we're near the end of this thing. We have 2019's Colorado, officially studio album number 41. It's with Crazy Horse. However, Crazy Horse no longer has Frank. Pancho is gone. He is retired, I think for health reasons, if I'm not mistaken, or just, a life playing on the road with Neil. Eventually, at some time, you got to hang it up. But Neil has this old friend whose name is NILS LOFGREN, who decides to return to the band and sit in for this album. It still sounds like Crazy Horse. It's a Crazy Horse Neil Young album. It's what you expect from these two when they get together. It is also very much in line with the protest album of Neil's recent vibe. More of a, maybe not necessarily a protest album as much of a let's raise awareness and remind everybody that we're really screwing up the environment and the ecology and Mother Earth, and we got to do something fast before it's gone. There's a song, the last song on here, this sort of acoustic, gentle, calm song called I Do, in which I think Neil's like he's with somebody else, feels like a romantic companion who's like appreciating all of like wonder's nature. And there's kind of this urgency to like, hey, let's sort of admire nature while it's still here. And the companion sort of like, yeah, I think we have time. And Neil's like, yeah, like in a calm, gentle way. Like, I know you think that. Like, that's good of you, but I think there's a little more urgency to this. Let's appreciate it soon before it's gone. So that's kind of the lyrical vibe of all this, though I don't think, well, a couple times there's maybe a little using a sledgehammer to hit it over your head type vibe. But for the most part, this is very late 60s, counterculture, hippie ethos, save the environment, global warming, love Mother Earth, like things that need to be like honored and recognized. And I think Neil does a pretty good job of like presenting these in like a, if you're not of this mindset, you could still listen to this album and not be put off by some of the things that he's trying to sell. 10 songs, pretty well balanced for a Crazy Horse album as far as like the variety of what we get. Open up with like an acoustic thing, full band, upbeat, poppy, harmonica, just almost like a very typical Neil 70s sort of pop rocker with acoustic guitar kind of bounce to it. We close with an acoustic song that's gentler and calmer. Everything else in between, for the most part, is electric. We have two sort of piano ballads that are a little bit calmer. We have one epic Crazy Horse style Neil jam, well over 13 minutes. Probably, like we're 41 albums in. We're over 50 years into his career at this point. There are probably, if you were to take all of his songs that were like 8 minutes or longer and rank them, I'm not sure this makes the top 10 at this point. I mean, we have some epic songs, but there is something really comfortable about turning on a song and knowing that Neil and Crazy Horse are just going to do this electric guitar kind of pre-grunge, jammy little thing for like 13 plus minutes. There's something just, yeah, I mean, Neil's still doing this and it still works. I don't think there is a bad song on this album. However, I don't think there is anything that really, really jumps out as like a must hear, must go on a playlist. Absolutely fantastic song. None of it's bad. I think the lyrics are exactly where Neil is at this point in his life. He even has a song called The Olden Days. He even taps into that nostalgia. Musically, that song sounds like it's filled with nostalgia. I think the line is, I'm living in the olden days. Yeah, Neil's still doing the nostalgia, looking back at the past thing, but he's also doing the protest thing and the raise awareness thing. And he's still very much Neil Young on this. Nils, I think, doesn't really, I mean, it sounds like a Crazy Horse album. You know, maybe when we get to the jam and we get to like the more indulgent guitar stuff, that not having Pancho do exactly what Pancho does gives it a little bit of a different flavor. But for the most part, Nils just fits right in and doesn't try to like change the direction of Crazy Horse or do anything too dramatic. It was recorded apparently in 11 days. And I think for a song like She Showed Me Love, which is the 13-minute song, I think if this album, they took 2 or 3 months, this song's going to be edited down to maybe 6 or 7 much more effective, tauter minutes. And maybe you add another song to just, or not even, because the album's 50 minutes long. You shorten down She Showed Me Love to its most essential thing. You still have like a 45-minute album. I like the long indulgent stuff, but I could see that if they took more time with this, that's one of those edges that might have been polished a little bit. A couple other songs maybe could have used just a little more something in them. It does almost feel like, hey, let's get together, let's learn some songs, let's play some music. It's got that NILS spontaneity vibe, which I applaud. Elsewhere on this channel, I'm currently doing Bruce Springsteen's Tracks 2, which are these unreleased albums that he sort of made, or songs he recorded and considered doing into an album. And I think if Bruce had more of that Neil impulse and like, hey, I'm just going to release this. It might not be the best stuff I've ever done. I only spent like a couple days on it, but I'm going to release it anyways. I think Springsteen's career is a much more fascinating career. I just did the fourth CD in that box set, the country one. That thing is fantastic. Like, that's top 10 album in a Springsteen catalog, possibly. Like, that's a strong, strong album. So I'm not in any way going to fault Neil for doing that. So I'm going to talk about the songs. I'm going to rank the album among all the others that I've already done. And then I'm going to rank the songs also. But anyways, like I said, 10 songs. It opens up with something called, not going to play any music. Sorry, guys. Opens up with something called Think of Me. Upbeat, bouncy, country, acoustic pop. Sounds very 70s. Like, this could have kicked off On the Beach, or this could have kicked off like Zuma. This could have been on one of those albums. I think it would have fit perfectly. Like, he keeps moving on through life, so he wants you to think of him. Think of me as I move on with these geese and all this stuff. The next song is the 13.5-minute song, She Showed Me Love, which is an interesting choice to put it second, considering there's nothing else longer. Usually there'll be like a long song early and a long song late, and it kind of balances each other out, or it's more towards the end as a dramatic statement. It's the second song. The first line, you might say I'm an old white guy. All right? He is an old white guy. That is a fact. Even if you define old. Well, it depends on how you define old. Also, technically, depends on how you define the word white. But he is an old white guy. Then he starts calling out other old white guys for abusing Mother Earth. So he's pointing fingers, but doing so rightfully. It's a really sloppy, scrappy, indulgent, over-the-top, crazy horse. It's, for the most part, kind of low-key as far as the aggression goes. But once we get to the jam in the middle, it gets like kind of ragged and rough, and like the drums are just being like attacked and pummeled, and the guitar playing's a little different than other stuff. There's this really stomping vibe. The phrase "She Showed Me Love" gets repeated a lot, like 10, 20, 25 times. It's dynamic. You know, we get the highs, we get the lows, we kind of bring it down, but it's still electric and kind of sizzling a little bit. But I do think maybe it could be cut down a little bit. But yeah, it's all about, you know, people who are fighting to save Mother Nature and looking at the people who aren't. So yeah, during all this, she showed me love. Olden Days, from the beginning, it sounds like it's a song about nostalgia. It just sounds like musically, that guitar lead, Neil's reminiscing. It feels like it. It has that reflective vibe. I think one of the opening lines is, how have you been, my long lost friend? So it's very much about looking in the past and remember where we've been. Reflective electric rock. Next, my favorite song on this, to give away that ending, Help Me Lose My Mind. Just this big, heavy, crazy horse rock that almost seems to drag, but in a good way, where it's like dun dun dun, and it just kind of forces itself forward as it stomps. This is a very much like crazy horse, Tyrannosaurus Rex. Everything's going to shake in the building when they stomp their way forward. Neil's vocal delivery is kind of tapping in that sedan delivery type. I'm on his evidence, and like yell, screaming, talking, ranting type thing. But there is just a heaviness at the core of this song that I think is heavier than anything else, and I think that's why it's my favorite. I think She Showed Me Love could have been a little bit angrier and maybe would have been more successful. But I think Help Me Lose My Mind is just musically, it's the best. I like the lyrics. I just like that dun dun dun, just like dragging us forward with some electric pre-grunge type rock. This is post-grunge when this was made, but I would say Neil helped define grunge, pre-grunge reference, all that, the whole long story. Green is Blue. A song about global warming, watching TV and seeing all the things that are happening because of like global warming. It's essentially a list of environmentally related disasters. There's a polar bear alone on an ice floe. Those penguins are dying. Bad things are happening because of global warming. We got to do something about it. It's got piano, some nice drums. It's kind of a calmer vibe. It dips into this really, really kind of sparse thing in what I guess is the chorus. And I'm assuming the green is blue, is green is sort of ecology and environmentalism, and blue is it's sad because look at all the destruction that's happening. That's my interpretation. Shut It Down is next. Awesome opening riff. Just this aggressive, like nonstop, like no, 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 like almost like just this grinding type chord. The drums come in, but then vocally, there's like these chanting background vocals, shut the whole system down. It's almost like a call and response where the background vocals chant, shut the whole system down. And then Neil kind of goes off again, sort of a talk, sing, sedan delivery type rant type vibe. Where they say this and then he responds with something about why we need to shut the factories down, we need to shut the corporations down. The vocal part and the melody and all that sort of back and forth at this point in Neil's, I think he's done this a couple times, this kind of energy. It feels a little recycled, but that opening guitar riff is that guitar riff could cause a rift in the earth if they just did it in one place. It's got a lot of aggression. It's got a lot of energy. It's really just this nice full attack. I just think the rest of the song doesn't quite live up to what this opening riff promises, but it's still a really good song. Milky Way is next. Awesome, awesome song. It starts off like a chill electric thing, almost like a Danger Bird type floating into something like that. Not quite as memorable like a Cortez where it's chill, but it's very electric and you kind of feel like it's going to stretch out a little bit. And it seems to be about seeing someone who immediately like just takes you away and like you're sailing in the Milky Way as you have these thoughts of romance or love or whatever it is that you're feeling. Some really nice just Neil guitar playing where he's just kind of like at first it's kind of quiet but then it's like very intense and kind of emotional, but the overall vibe is kind of calm like you're floating through a Milky Way, but the feelings that are causing that Milky Way sort of emotion are pretty intense, so it's a nice balance of those two things. Works really well in like the flow of the album. Eternity is next, a piano ballad, a little bit of bounce to it. It's a nice contrast again in the flow of things. Apparently just a love song, positive vibes all around. Just cute, quaint little number. My least favorite song on the album, Rainbow of Colors. Yeah, we get like some heavy choral singing in the beginning that almost seems like it's like anthemic, like, hey, we got an environmental message of peace and love and hope, and let's all sing together as this chorus as we hold hands across America type thing. It almost has this like swaying, like holding hands, almost even at times seems like a bar sing-along song, like not a drunken, like, but like a sober bar, like we're all in a cafe singing along to some environmental anthem. Maybe this is the equivalent of a bar sing-along, as this is like a cafe drinking tea type sing-along. It's also a really interesting pro-United States song, but in a, yeah, there's a lot of problems and our government is maybe not doing what they should do, but we, the people, have the power, so let's embrace that. My water bottle's making weird noises right here. The message is good, but this is probably one of the hokiest songs on here. The title, Rainbow of Colors, is just a little too obvious. Doesn't really do much for me. And then the closing song, I Do, calm, acoustic, gentle. It's an awesome way to end the album. I like the message. I like the, hey, this person has hope. This person's trying to, hey, there's a little more urgency than we need. But it's done in like a really calm, conversational, good way. It's an enjoyable album. I don't think it's great. I think it's good. I even think like there are things that I will rank higher than this that maybe aren't as consistent from start to finish, but either the sort of underlying theme that Neil's going for, or like the conceit that overrides the entire album, or, you know, his experimentalism, which maybe fails once or twice on an album, is more interesting than this, which again, it's not bad, but it's familiar, it's comfortable, it's what we know. And Interesting, right before COVID, well, like a year before COVID. But yeah. Also, they recorded it in Colorado, and apparently they had to pipe oxygen into wherever they were because they were so, high up altitude wise that it was just hard for them to like sustain and maintain their energy as they recorded these songs, which could explain the She Showed Me Love sort of like ramshackle raggedness. It was like, it's hard for us to do this, man. We can't, because it does feel like Help Me Lose My Mind and Milky Way could have been much longer songs, and maybe they were, but just because maybe they just didn't have enough oxygen and they just couldn't execute what they wanted to execute. But a solid album. I will say that, a solid album. It's like if you have a sports team, everybody needs this role play. It's a role player. Everybody needs this role player on their team to get the job done, right? We know Neil's genius. He's been putting this out. It's some good stuff, but I can't imagine this making anybody's top 10 list. Where would I rank the songs? So I have the songs ranked right there. I do think some of the heavier stuff, I think Help Me is the best song on here. Even though She Showed Me definitely isn't one of their best epic jams, I do think there are some really interesting musical moments in that. And I'm always for like, hey, the next 13 minutes, we're just in this groove and that's all we're going to do. I think that's one of Neil's that's one of Neil's great attractions, is the ability to do that. Milky Way is fantastic. I do think if Milky Way was a little bit longer, that might actually be a slightly more higher ranked song. But then Think of Me, Shut It Down, that Rainbow of Color at the bottom, Colors, I just don't think that's a very interesting song. If I were to rank the albums, and I don't have to, but I'm going to, one, it's not in the bottom 10. So congratulations, you're not in the bottom 10. It is also not in the top 20. It is also not in the top 10. So after the Gold Rush, you were still safe in the top 10. I said way back when in the beginning that after the Gold Rush might not be in the top 10, that it would be ranked much lower than people thought. I didn't think it would fall to 10, but it's a 10. I think it's going to stay there. And that means this album I have right at number 29. A little below the middle point. I think Fork in the Road, Peace Trail, I think the energy of those is just overall a little bit stronger. I kind of like all the stuff he did with Promise of the Real. I think there's a lot of potential in there. Those first two albums are maybe untapped potential. I think he realizes that by the final one, the soundtrack Paradox, and then everything above that is just really, really strong stuff. So yeah, number 29, which is a respectable place to be in a Neil catalog. All right, that is all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this album, on NILS LOFGREN, on Crazy Horse, on the state of Colorado in general. You know how comments work, people. We're nearing the end, and I'm getting a little sad. I know what artist I'm doing next. I'm going to keep up this Friday, deep delve into an artist thing, and I have the perfect artist with one of the best Zappa connections ever, I think. And I've already talked about the Zappa connection elsewhere on this channel. In fact, I talked about a show that he was in. So that's what I'm going to do next, is a deep dive. And I'm super excited about it. So I was trying to make myself feel better about Neil coming to an end by trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And I'm excited about it. But that's all I got. For now, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Peace. Talk to you later.